Your resident Tableturf champion is here to break it down for you. What's up, my friends? Welcome back. I'm the Zim. This is the Zim video. This video is all about Tableturf action and how to play it, what it's all about, breaking down some strategies. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna break it down, divide it into sections. We'll start off with what Tableturf is all about, and then we'll go into what decks you could use to beat each NPC. So check it out. Hang with us. All right, let's get started. All right, we're gonna start this off with a just kind of a general overview, nitty-gritty, detailed explanation of what Tableturf is. So it's a board game. So first off is you can find Tableturf in the square. So if you're don't know where it is, you can't hyper jump to it like you can other places. But you start off down there, down the stairs. You go up the stairs. You hang a right. You can go either left or right again. I always go down this way and down this little tunnel here, and go down this little tunnel right here. And then this is where you're finding Tableturf. You can play Tableturf against staff right here, where then you can get to the NPCs, where you can play all the NPCs. However, you have to beat story mode in order to play the deep cuts and the agents and cuttlefish. So once you beat story mode, you can play all the NPCs. And then also outside of Tableturf, there are some players like you and me that hang out around the Tableturf, and then also down at the entrance. So down where you spawn for the first time, right behind you, there are some Tableturf players back here as well that you can play. And these, from what I understand, they are actual players like you and me. However, they don't, it's just basically an NPC. You can play a Tableturf battle against them. Sometimes you can get up to 150 points if you play against these ones. So if you're still grinding, if you're still trying to get your points, that may be a good way to go about it. I don't know. I got my points just by playing the regular NPCs. I played a few of those ones, but I normally just play the regular NPCs. So that's where you can play Tableturf. So there's that. So then these are the players you can play against. When you're in it, you can first three baby jelly, all the jellies, you basically don't get anything good out of. You don't get card sleeves off of playing the jellies. You only get card sleeves when you beat an NPC 30 times, and then also the clone jelly you don't get anything off. But you need to beat everybody once in order to get the badge for, I have it armed right now, this what is it called, the Tableturf Dojo Max level champion. You have to beat everyone one time to get this badge if you're into the badges, so keep that in mind. And then you can also get, by beating a bunch of the Tableturf levels, as you level up, you get a bunch of things, including like the all these badges over here, how the rank you reach, and then if you collect the Tableturf cards, you get those. I suppose we'll talk more about Tableturf cards in a minute here. So there's a bunch of stuff you get if you level up to level 30 playing Tableturf. So let's go inside and look at these people that we're competing against here. So we go in, each NPC has a different map. I mean, some of them repeat, like with Floor and Coco, it's squared. Gnarly Eddie's Thunder Point, Sheldon is X marks the garden. And as you go down, it rotates. The only one, Little Judd's the only one that plays double Gemini. And then, yeah, so there's different maps, River Drift and such, Main Street. So each one has a different Tableturf map. At the beginning here, I'll tell you one thing to keep in mind. Pretty much the strategies, we'll start some strategy. We'll talk a little strategy for playing Tableturf. Thing you want to keep in mind playing Tableturf is there's basically 3 different strategies. 90% of all the NPCs at this point, you'll play one strategy against. Level 3 strategy. Level 1 and level 2 on all of them are, I found, fairly easy. Level 3 gets significantly harder because they get significantly more aggressive is what they do. Level 1 and level 2, when they start dropping their cards on their map, they usually keep them close to their end of the map. So, and that makes it easy to play them. But when level 3 happens, they start getting more aggressive and start going toward you on the map. So that's a point of emphasis, because what you want to do, 90% of these maps, you want to figure out, how do I block them from coming forward? So the way it works is, I suppose we can look at one of these. Let's let's go look at Baby Jelly. I'm just gonna do a level 1 Baby Jelly. I'll just pick a random deck. I'm gonna go with Shiver here. Oh, I should have done a different one. Oh well, anyways. So when you're in the map, you start off on your end, you have cards to pick off. 90% of the time, you want to play the biggest cards you can possibly get. If your biggest card doesn't show up when you first get your draw, you want to redraw, so you can redraw one time and try to get your biggest cards when you start off. I'm gonna hold steady because I got my biggest cards. So then you want to lay your biggest cards as soon as possible. So you can decide on how to lay them down. You lay cards down by connecting them to your next card. So you always have to be touching the card. I can't lay a card out here. I always have to be touching these cards. The darker colored squares are designed to do special. They have two purposes. One, if you close them off completely, if you use a if you have one of these darker colored squares and you surround it completely with lighter colored squares or the border of your map, it turns a new color. So we'll demonstrate right here. So I'm about to close off this one right here. We're going to close off that one right there. It'll light up, it'll make a sound, it'll light up. It gives me a special. So down on the bottom of the screen, you see on the far corner of the screen way down there, I have these special moves, these special blocks that are starting to accumulate. And once you get a certain amount, you see on each card there's 3. On these cards in particular, these cards I have out right now, they have 3 or 2 special blocks, and then I can use them. Let's see if we can grab another special block here. We can only get one more if I use that. Well, let's use, or any other ones I'll use this real quick. I may or may not win this round, but I'm just gonna show you. So now I have 2 special blocks. So now I can go special on and use this curling bomb. And what that allows me to do, if I decide to use it, if I select it and use it, the only problem is I have to use it off of one of the other special blocks, glowing or not glowing. It has to be touching one of the other special blocks. And right now there's nothing there's no point in me using it here, because what you want to do is use it off a special block and also you can cover up theirs. When you're using a special like this, you can cover up their ink. So you want to make sure that you're building you kind of want your special blocks to be toward the enemy. You want to be toward the enemy, so you don't want your special blocks buried inside of where you are. So that's a part of the strategy you have to think about as you're laying down your pieces. You're like, okay, when I get the chance to use a special, what am I gonna build it off of? So you keep that in mind. I'll go back. I'm not gonna use a special. So now I've built out a few of the specials. So let's use one of the specials just to show you, just to demonstrate. So I'm gonna special on. I have this special right here, and I have these two darker colored squares right there. I have one dark colored square right there. So this is what you want. You want to maximize the amount of coverage you can do. So if you only have this 4 block like I'm using right now, I want to cover blue 4 squares if I possibly can. Ideally as well, if you can do it when you cover your blocks, if you can also light up your special, like right here. If I lay down right here, I'll only cover 3 blues, but I'll light up my special. Or I can go like right here and cover all 4 blues, but I'm not going to light up my special off the one I'm using. So it just depends on what strategy you're implementing. Sometimes I will kind of sacrifice a move or do a less good move to create a better move in the future. So that's something to keep in mind. So we'll just lay this here. And so you saw right there, when you have to pass, if you can't lay a block anywhere, you have to pass. And when you pass, you see they got a special block. So whenever you pass, so sometimes passing, very rarely, but I've passed on purpose to get a special to then lay down a better move if I wanted one more special move or something like that. So keep that in mind. Sometimes the strategy around playing table turf, sometimes you do things like that. You might pass on purpose. I'm definitely gonna win this one. They had to pass again. So essentially I like blocked them. They can't do anything. I'm rocking it. Look, I can't lay anything down here, so I'm gonna have to pass, but it's the last move, so it doesn't really matter. So we did it. We finished it. So that's kind of the breakdown of how you play table turf and some strategies. So going back to some strategies. Okay, let's go back to our list of players here. We're not gonna play again. We beat Baby Jelly on the first level, no problem, easy peasy. All right, before we move on, let's talk a little bit more about gameplay mechanics and strategies as a result. So one of the things that happens is sometimes while you're laying cards down, the NPC, the AI will lay a card at the same place that you're planning to lay a card, and whatever card is smaller will win that area. Like if it overlaps, whatever card is smaller wins the overlap. If one card, if you have the same size cards, same amount of cards, same amount of numbers, like a 12 versus a 12, and they partially overlap, where they overlap will turn into an unpassable area. It turns into a gray block where it like blocks everything. So it's like this locked out area. You can't lay a special on top of it or anything. It just becomes this, it becomes kind of like a wall. Yeah, it becomes a wall. Sometimes in gameplay, you want to consider the strategy around how you're laying out your cards, and depending on what pattern of cards you get, sometimes you want to possibly predict. You're thinking like, I think they're gonna lay a big card here, so let me lay a small card in that same area so that you actually win that area. So that's part of the strategy as well. You don't necessarily always want to avoid what they're doing. So sometimes it's good to avoid so you don't get covered, but sometimes it's good to lay just directly in the path of where you think they're gonna go so that you can win that area with your smaller card. So keep that in mind. All right, let's move on. Okay, going back to our list of players, we have that I mentioned earlier. There are 3 basic strategies. First strategy and primary strategy is you're trying to block the other player from coming through. You want to block them as fast as possible. If you can't block them, depending on what layers you have, another sideline strategy to that is you try to go around them. Depending on the map you're on, sometimes if you try to get behind them, that's another strategy. If you can't just straight up block them, and if there's like you have a long piece that gets around them, that's something to keep in mind. So either block them or get behind them. Those are 2 main strategies. The other 2 kind of strategies are based on the maps. So 2 players, so pretty much all the NPCs except for 2 have very similar strategies, attack strategies, playing strategies. Merch and Staff are the only 2 that have a slightly different strategy, because Merch's strategy is based because his deck that he has a lot of big pieces, so it's a different kind of vibe, like these really spread out pieces. Merch was actually the first level 3 that I was able to beat consistently, and it kind of really helped inform how to beat the rest of them. So maybe I'd recommend trying to beat Merch first, because he's easier to block because his pieces are so big. So keep that in mind. So Merch is a good one. I think maybe depending on how you play the game and how your brain works with it, I found Merch was the first one I was able to beat easily because his cards were so big and that. But in the others, if you don't block him, he'll block you quick. So keep that in mind. All right, and then the other one, like I said, Staff, is a completely different strategy, because Staffs is a map that's really tiny, so you have to rethink your deck, because a lot of times your decks are based on we'll talk about decks in a moment here, but you really want smaller cards in general for box seat deck. You don't want too many big cards, or else you'll get stuck and have to pass a bunch. So you have to rethink, and playing box seats is less about blocking and more about how can I light up specials, is really a kind of your main strategy around the box seats, because then if you light up your specials all the time, you can cover their pieces a lot. So I actually find box seats, I think box seats is my favorite map to play because of that way of playing. I think we broke down pretty much the basics of each of the NPCs, a couple strategies. So let's go into our decks. Let's take a look at our decks, and I'll go through and show you each deck I beat each NPC with. So let's go into our decks. So we go into our status bar, go down to Tableturf, card list. So it'll open up, it'll give you, so these are all the cards that you get to choose from at the moment are listed here. You can sort by how big they are. My favorite card of all the cards and I highly recommend trying to get it as soon as possible. And pretty much you can pretty much keep it in every single deck that you have. The best, in my opinion, the best card is this Ultra Stamp. Of all the cards so far that I've gotten, because, and there's a few that are sort of like this, like the Ink Vac, Booyah Bomb, Tentamissiles, Zipcaster. So as you see, these are all 12, they have 12 spaces, and they only cost 3 specials to use in a special. So they're really good to, you know, if you can acquire specials pretty quick, they don't use a lot, and then you can lay them on top of other players pretty easily. I found Ultra Stamp to be the one that's the best, taking up more of the NPC's spaces when you use it. So that's my favorite card right now in the deck is Ultra Stamp. And these are the other cards I have. They have a variety of different like rarities. Fresh, rare, and common are the 3 levels of rarity. Let's talk a little bit about how to build your deck. So let's go into deck edit. So as you see here, I have all the different decks I have here I named them after the NPC that I beat. I'll just scroll through like this, and so you can you know, pause the video and copy these decks. So there's a couple of strategies. Let's go back. Let's go like into this Gelaflora deck real quick and go into our edit deck. So then you can make your own deck as you want. Like you'll start off with a bunch of blank decks that you have to populate yourself. So let's look at this Agent 2 deck. But basically you want like a few pieces that are smallish, you know, like so, like these small pieces. Looks like I have 6 fairly small pieces. I have a few medium-sized pieces, the 7 here and an 8 down here on the bottom. And then I got these 12s that we were talking about. I have the 2 of the 12s that only take up 3, and then I've just like this. The steelhead one seems to work for me pretty good. I have 2 17 pieces. I don't recommend many more than that, because if you don't get them early, if you don't get a big piece early in your game, it typically becomes unusable, because either because you can't put them anywhere, or it's really hard to get 5 or 6 specials to lay it down. I have 1 5 special with the 15, so keep that in mind. You don't want to load up just with big pieces. You want maybe 2 to 3 big pieces, you know, a selection of mediums, especially these 12ers with the 3 specials, and then a selection of smaller ones, so that you can those help you make the specials happen. So keep that in mind. So I think there's 2 main strategies as well for building a deck. There's a lot of pieces that are angled. So let's pretend I'm gonna switch out a piece here. Let's pretend I'm gonna switch out this one. So we have these are all the cards I get to choose from that I have in my, you know, that I have open so far out of the 106 or so I have. So you can see there's some pieces that are kind of angled, and then there's some pieces that are perpendicular, kind of square pieces, and there's wide pieces like this. So depending on how you maybe develop your personal strategy for playing, you may find you like angled pieces better, or you might find you like kind of square pieces better. I'm kind of a mix. If you see, I have like in this deck, let's go back, I have my 2 big ones are kind of angled, but you can I have a few big ones that are kind of more perpendicular and square. So let's look at this. Let's go down to the bottom. I have like, you know, like this Cali and Fry one it's a little more vertical or perpendicular, and then this Flutter I've used a lot as well. And I like this Flyfish one, works pretty good too. The Octoballer hasn't really worked out for me that well. Haven't been a big fan of that one, or the Booyah Bomb actually. Not a big fan of Booyah Bomb or the Octoballer, so I've used this and Parry one a few times. But anyways, okay. So that's basic strategy around building your deck. So this is also a good spot to talk about another kind of element of strategy with playing Tableturf, is while you're playing, it might take you a while to learn your deck. So you want to, as you're playing, you want to learn your deck so you can kind of mentally predict what's coming up in a way, what might be coming up, what you might do. So learning your deck, as well as building a good deck, and then learning, like knowing what it is like pretty important to successful strategies for beating the NPCs. Okay, so let me just scroll through each of the decks so you can see how I made my deck. So if you're stuck on one of the NPCs, maybe just copy my deck or something very similar and see if that works for you. So we'll just start with, I'll just do them in the order that they're here on the screen. I don't remember what order they are and things, but Jellyfloor, there you go. That number 7 is an interesting one. I'm not sure. So that number 7, I might not use that 7 anymore. The one that's square, that's kind of like a square. It's the only 7 I have in my deck. I might trade that out, but that's what I use to beat Jellyfloor. Mr. Coco, very similar. Sometimes, you know, since I would go, you know, some of these that were in like Jellyfloor, Mr. Coco are right next to the other working down. I only changed one card. You know, I would kind of see like, oh, what's kind of different about it. And I would change one card. I probably should do this in that kind of order so you can see. But you kind of learn, you kind of learn what card you're not using. So keep that in mind as you're playing. If you find you're not using one card, go change it out for another card. If you find there's always just seems to be one card that doesn't seem to work out. So here's my Agent 1 deck. Anything significant I can remember about this one? Agent 1 was the hardest for me. Most all of the playing of this, I was able to beat them 50% or better. Like, you know, I'd lose one, win one, lose one. Some of them I'd win more than, you know, I'd win 3 in a row and they'd win one. Like some of them I was like 50% or better win ratio. Agent 1, I was probably in 30% win ratio. It was rough. Agent 1 was tough for me. Okay, Judd. I don't know why I put Judd, but Judd, that's the deck I use. So that was close around the same time I was playing these two. So it's very similar deck to those. I just kind of changed one thing as I kind of start with the thing I used the last. Big Man here. Looks like I made a lot of changes with Big Man. See, I have, yep. Well, a lot of angled pieces for Big Man. Box seats. So here's my box seats one. Looks like I did use that Octoballer one. I guess that worked out for this one. This is my box seats. Cuttlefish. This is what I use for Cuttlefish. Agent 2. This was the last deck I built. I really like that 2 spot that's on an angle. I really like that one. That's one of my favorites. And the 3, the little, let's see what it's called. This 3 spot, the Splat Bomb, I really like. There's also, Small Fry is also the opposite of the Splat Bomb. Same shape, just the opposite. Let's go up to this Thunder Point one. Thunder Point, I'm not sure. I think it was just early on when I was playing one of the jellies. This is why I chose this for a Thunder Point. Merch, like I said, Merch was the first NPC I was able to beat. So as you can see in this deck, I don't have any of those 17 pieces, or yeah, the big ones, because I didn't have them at the time of beating Merch. So I used this deck. Harmony was my next one after Merch, so it's a pretty similar deck. There's only like 2 changes or 3 changes from Merch. Pretty similar. I just like, you just kind of pay attention to what's kind of different, like what you're not using. Sheldon, let's see. Sheldon, oh, it looks like Sheldon and Harmony, I use the exact same deck. Teddy. Only 1 change. I played Little Judd after Judd, so let's see if how different it looks. That's pretty different. Oh, because Little Judd's the only that diamond shaped map. So I found this to work out decently. I guess I beat, you know, obviously beat him. Shivers, I went with this deck. And then Fry, like this. Alright, hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you'll start winning. How you get cards, there's a couple, most of the ways you get cards is by leveling up your catalog. That's a one great way to get your cards. You can get a bunch of cards off of playing story mode, and when you're discovering the little things that are around the maps and stuff as you're painting the maps, you can get cards off of story mode. You can if you get the same card that you've already had in a card pack, you can go to the bit exchange, and so right now I have 15 bits, so any card I already have will turn into one of these bits, and then you can use the bits to do a couple of things. Either buy a brand new card, so like let's see if so right here is the ones that are dark are the ones I don't have. So I don't have this small fry one, which is a fresh card, but this is really expensive. It's a 40-bit purchase because it's a fresh card. It's the most rare. And then so let's look at one. So I don't have this 4 spot right here, so I could buy it for 5 bits if I want, but I'm not gonna buy it right now. But you can also upgrade a card. So if I wanted to upgrade this for 10 bits, I can upgrade it. And as far as I know, it only upgrades, see it says right there, change card's ability will not change. So it just upgrades the look of the card. And I don't know if you keep upgrading them, anything significant changes. Like, I don't even know if you can keep upgrading. Should we try one just to do it? What's a card that I use a bunch? So I really want to do, I don't want to spend, I'm gonna save my, I'm gonna save my bits if you don't mind, but I want to upgrade my favorite card just because I want to have it to be different. That 12 where I was talking to about earlier, it's right here. This Ultra Stamp, that's a rare card even. This is the best card. So if I wanted to upgrade this, it would cost me 20 bits. So I want to upgrade it. I don't have enough. All right, so that's it. That's how you play some Tableturf tips. If you have any thoughts for me, if you want to know a little bit more, if you feel like I didn't answer something for you, jump down in the comments. And I'm also going to be putting out a video, individual video for each deck, each NPC I beat. All right, I live stream Splatoon often on this channel, so be sure to subscribe, follow along, and live stream with me. We pretty soon, hopefully they'll be releasing Tableturf against another NPC or another actual real people. We'll be able to play against each other. All right, so in the lobby here, up on the top of the lobby, there's this whole Tableturf thing, and maybe this is where you'll be able to sign up for player versus player Tableturf when we can start playing against actual people. All right, cool. Hopefully this was helpful. Come join the stream, subscribe to the show. We're trying to blow it up here. I really appreciate you. All right, until next time, as always, my friends, be loving, kind, and patient. Peace.